This is the Less Insurance Dependence podcast show with my good friend Gary Takas and myself, Naren Raja.
We appreciate your listenership, your time, and most of all, we appreciate your intention to reduce insurance dependence in your practice. Our goal is to provide information that will help you successfully reduce insurance dependence and convert your practice into a thriving and profitable dental practice that provides you with personal, professional, and financial satisfaction.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Less Insurance Dependence podcast, the official podcast of the Reducing Insurance Dependence Academy, www.rid.academy. Membership to the Academy is a gift from Gary and I in appreciation for your listenership. Visit rid.academy and do not forget to register. By registering, you will have access to all of our resources and a free pass to all of our events, including our annual summit. I am Naren, your co-host. The topic we'll be covering today is, can PPO plans set fees for uncovered services? Before we get into today's topic, we have an event coming up on the 27th of May. It's on digital impressions in dentistry. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Go to thrivingdentist.com/events and don't forget to sign up. So looking forward to seeing you there. Let's jump right in. So I have the topic in front of me, Gary. Can PPO plans set fees for uncovered services? I know there's been a lot of legislations and a lot of movement over the last few years, state by state by state. So I think this is something that is a topic we need to be covering today because, we want to give our listeners kind of like a up-to-date information on what's happening, in different states. So take it away.
Yeah, this is an important topic because I have always found it to be absurd that an insurance company would be able to set a fee on a service that they don't cover. Why in the world? I mean, think about it just from a practical standpoint, Naren.
Yeah.
Why should an insurance company be able to set a fee on, a treatment or a service that is not covered, under their contract? How does that make any sense? The only way that makes sense is for them to have control over you. To control. Like an example would be, say, if the plan does not cover dental implants, but they can set your fee for an implant. Another good example would be cosmetic dentistry, and specifically, say, veneers. Why in the world should they have a veneer fee when it's not covered by their policy? And yet they've been able to get away with that for years. However, starting maybe 10 or 12 years ago, let's remember that insurance companies are regulated by the state that they operate in. It's not a federal, issue. It's a state-run issue. They're legislated by their state. They're governed by their state. So it can vary from state to state. But starting 10, 12 years ago, there started to be some pressure from different dental associations on insurance companies in their state. And the good news is that today, as we're recording this, 43 of our 50 states, Naren, have legislation that does not allow a PPO plan, an insurance plan, to set fees on uncovered services. Does not. However, do you think that they sent memos out to their dentists telling them about this?
No.
Because they don't even care about you. You're not part of their ecosystem. It's strange, but that sounds very strange. You're not. If you look at the entities that are involved in dentistry, insurance, we've got the insurance company that runs the policy. We've got the dentist that provides the care. There's 4 entities here, so there's 2. We've got the patient that receives the care. And then perhaps to the insurance company, most importantly, we have the company that buys the policy. You're not in that contract loop. They don't care about you. So they're not going to send you anything. They're not going to tell, hey, guess what? You can charge whatever you want for an implant. You can charge whatever you want for a veneer. They just quietly hope you don't know. So 43 states. So rather than listing the 43 states that do not allow you to, do not allow the insurance company to set a fee on an uncovered service, I'm going to name the 7 that unfortunately they still are allowed to do this. Here's the 7. because I know we have listeners in all 50 states, Naren, and I thought it'd be easier to cover the 7 than the 43. Here's the 7, sadly, that the insurance companies in your state are still allowed to set fees on uncovered services. In no particular order, it's Delaware, Hawaii, Maine, Michigan, New York, South Carolina, and Tennessee. I guess I did alphabetize those. So Delaware, Hawaii, Maine, Michigan, New York, South Carolina, and Tennessee. Bad news for dentists in those 7 states, because they could set a fee for any service in your practice, and they do. However, if you're in the 43 states that they cannot do this anymore, then one of the things I encourage you, if you do services that aren't covered, then take a look at those, have your insurance coordinator identify those services that aren't covered, and set those fees at your UCR fee, your usual, customary, and reasonable fee. Set that. Set it there. And a lot of times dentists have gotten away from their UCR fees, Naren. They don't even know what their UCR fees are anymore because they enter their contracted fees, into their fee guides in their software. But this is something where you're going to get a lift if you do any of those uncovered services. You're going to get a lift and be able to charge your usual fee, which of course you should be able to do because it's not covered by the plan. One of the other things we have to talk about is that when we talk about fees under a PPO plan, we need to go deeper into this because, like, for example, Delta does not have a universal a fee schedule for all Delta plans. It's guided by the group policy number, So if you have 15 different Delta plans that by virtue of your patients have 15 different Delta plans, across your patient base, it's possible that you'll have 15 different fee schedules based on those individual group policies. Does that make sense, Naren?
Yeah.
Why do you think that's the case? Why is that possible?
Because these are these same plans are roped in by multiple other plans, correct?
Well, no, it's deeper than that. So they're based on what premium level the employer is willing to pay.
I see.
So if you have an employer that maybe is a private employer and they want to attract and keep the best employees, they might contract a higher value plan from Delta, and basically because they'd be willing to pay higher premiums. But if it's a municipal plan, a lot of municipalities will cry poor. They have tight budgets, and maybe they don't have room. They'll buy the cheapest policy they can. So when we talk about it, it has to be indexed by group policy number, not a generic Delta fee. Or plug in whatever insurance company you want. Aetna, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, any of them. Plug in whatever one you want. But one of the things you should do is have your insurance coordinator identify anything you do clinically that is an uncovered service. I mean, some obvious ones that come to mind would be, as I mentioned, implants, perhaps cosmetic dentistry. And there's a variety of different things that would fall under cosmetic dentistry. Another example might be if you do anything with sleep, like sleep apnea, oftentimes that's not covered. It's an uncovered service. But anything that isn't covered, go ahead and raise those in your fee guide and enter your UCR fee for that. And I'll share the difference that this can make, Naren. And this came up with a client of ours in our coaching. This is a doctor that does a fair amount of cosmetic dentistry. He's an AACD member, American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. He's working on becoming accredited by the AACD. He's very close to that. I think he's 2 cases away. And he's very accomplished as a cosmetic dentist. And he gets a lot of patients that are interested in what we call smile design. And his fee for a veneer, I won't use his name, but I'll use the details. His UCR fee is $1,800 for a veneer, $1,800. So if you're doing a 10-unit case, it's an $18,000 case. And of course, that fee is very justified when you look at what his lab expense and the time in that case and the end results and his experience. However, his contracted fee under a PPO plan, they made the fee for a veneer less than a crown. Can you imagine that, Naren? Less than a crown, because it's less tooth surface. That was their logic. So in this PPO plan, the fee for a crown was $800, which is pathetic. But the fee for a veneer was $600. Can he do a veneer case, 10 unit porcelain veneer case at $600 a unit when his lab fee is $400 a unit? Does that make any sense?
It doesn't.
I mean, he's going broke.
Yes.
And in fact, he's motivated not to do it. He's losing money.
Right.
But now he's in a state, we informed him, hey, you're in a state that they cannot cap your fee. He was angry because he said, they haven't told me that. And that was the point that I made earlier in this episode. Don't expect any communication from the PPO plans to tell you this. They just kind of keep it undercover, hoping you don't learn. And so now look at the difference, Naren. So now he can charge $1,800 for a veneer instead of $600. On a 10 unit case, he's getting $18,000 instead of $6,000. And guess what? Now he's more motivated than ever to promote cosmetic dentistry. He had gotten to the point where it's like, no, if they're a patient under this plan, I don't even want to present veneers to them because it's so pathetically covered. Well, in 43 states, you can now change that. So if you're in any of the states other than Delaware, Hawaii, Maine, Michigan, New York, South Carolina, and Tennessee, then you're in good shape. Now, if you're in one of those 7 states, it's possible I know we have listeners, Naren, in all those states. What should you do? Talk to your state dental association and ask them to lobby for this. By the way, they'll get support from the ADA on this. Dr. Brett Kessler, who's the current president of the ADA, a good friend of mine. Dr. Kessler has been pushing this legislation through. And so contact your leadership through your state, the Hawaii Dental Association, Delaware Dental Association, Maine, so on, and ask them to lobby for you to get your state in the group of 43 states, add to the group of 43 states that do not allow insurance companies to cap their fees, set your fees for uncovered services. Enlist your colleagues in this. Talk to your leadership at your state association level, and they can get support from the ADA on that, because that's one of Dr. Kessler's campaign projects, is to get all 50 states allowing you to set your own fee on uncovered services. But that's what you could do in the meantime. And I wouldn't suggest that you run afoul of that, because right now in those 7 states, you are required to honor if you're a contracted member of the PPO plan, you're required to honor their fees. You've agreed to that in your contract. Naren, most dentists have never read a PPO contract. It could be 300 pages long, but somewhere in there, there's language that says that if you don't abide by our fees, we can pursue action against you, and they will. So don't think about running afoul if you're in Delaware, Hawaii, Maine, Michigan, New York, South Carolina, or Tennessee, as that could result in serious issues for you. However, what you can do is use the power of your voice, use the power of our organized dentistry, and get your states to mimic what the other 43 have done. And I would hope that maybe this podcast episode will help change that, Naren. They certainly should not have any right to set your fee on an uncovered service. You should be able to set your own fee. And while that won't affect the other fees, it won't affect, if you're still in network, that won't affect the other fees. But if you follow our model where your foundation is everyday general dentistry and hygiene, and then you've added a mix of nice high-value services, it's entirely possible that a portion of your practice, maybe hopefully a growing portion of your practice, are those high-value services that typically aren't covered by insurance. And that'll be a lift for you. Imagine the lift on a single case, Naren, of $18,000 instead of $6,000. Where did the additional $12,000 go in the difference in those 2 cases for that doctor? Where did the difference between getting $6,000 for a 10-unit veneer case when when Delta set the fee at $600 versus now he can charge you know, $1,800 a fee. Where did the extra $12,000 go?
Uh, it's going to the pockets of Delta.
Well, that goes right to the bottom line of the dentist.
Yeah.
So now when he can charge 18 grand, it goes right to the bottom line of profitability. It goes right to the dentist.
Oh, because it's not controlled by the, it's
Yeah,
not
it's not
controlled by the for the practice, right?
You think any of our listeners might, even if you do one of those cases a year, there's an extra $12,000 directly to your profitability.
Right.
Using the
Right.
same lab, using the same team, doing the same thing, and now you get 18, which is a very fair fee for veneer. Veneers are to do it well, require lots of lots of skill and great lab, um, experienced team members, and you deserve that. And they have absolutely no, in my opinion, no right to be able to set that fee. But happy to see that 43 states, which will be the majority of our listeners, are free from that constraint. But ultimately, that's going to move the needle in your practice on your side. But ultimately, if you really want to stop having insurance company influence your practice, the best thing to do is to start the process of successfully resigning from them, which there is a growing groundswell movement, Naren. If you want to join that groundswell movement and do it right, I'd encourage you to set up a coaching strategy meeting with me. You can go to thrivingdentist.com/CSM. It stands for coaching strategy meeting, and we can talk about your practice, talk about maybe what high value services you have or are considering having, talk about what the preparation would be to successfully resign from PPO plans, and set yourself up to be free from their regulation. I think this example shows that they don't care anything. The PPO plan doesn't care anything about you. Nothing. Why in the world would they not inform you of this? Because they don't care about you. That's why. So if you want to be free from that ultimately, then start the process of successfully resigning. We've helped over 400 practices in all 50 states in every practice environment, and it can be done. We don't have to go all the way to fee for service. We call it, look at the name of this podcast, Less Insurance Dependence. We call it reducing insurance dependence. We don't call it going fee for service. But if your goal is to be fee for service, then I'll be your biggest cheerleader because that's the way to get the most out of it. But you don't have to go all the way. Every time you successfully resign, then you've improved your practice. Well, as we wrap up today, let me encourage you to share this episode with your colleagues, especially if you're in one of those 7 states that need this legislation. We need a group think on this. Share it with your colleagues. And if you're in one of those 43 states, also share it with your colleagues because they may not know this. And now you can be the one that delivered this great news. This podcast is really good news if you're in one of those 43 states. So share it with your colleagues. On that note, thank you all for the privilege of your time. Naren and I'll bring it back full circle. Come and join us for our live event that's coming up at the end of May, where we're going to talk about all the cool things that are happening in digital impressions these days. If you're already doing it, you'll learn more things. But if you're not doing it, it might be time to jump on the bandwagon. We're going to have a panel of experts that are going to talk about all the things technologically that are happening. Come join us. You'll get some CE credits and some useful information. Come join us. There is no tuition on that. Just go to thrivingdentist.com/, is it events, plural, Naren?
Yes, it's events.
Events. thrivingdentist.com/events. You do have to register, but there is no tuition. It's a gift from us to you for your listenership. On that note, thanks for the privilege of your time. Naren and I look forward to connecting with you on the next Less Insurance Dependence podcast.